Good morning, welcome back. Well, today's show is all about spicing things up a little bit, doing something a little differently, and why not make a different cake? So pastry chef Lindsay Brooks from Runaway Spoon makes fabulous pastries for lots of area restaurants, does catering, weddings, you name it.
Yeah.
She's our pastry queen around here.
Thank you.
Pastry princess, we should call you. So I was talking to Lindsay, and I can't remember the last time I had spice cake, and it's really one of my favorites. It's just simple, and it's just delicious.
And it's something from the past, but it should really come back because there is a place for the cinnamon, nutmeg, a little bit of cloves. It really comes through as a wonderful smelling cake.
Not to mention the frosting on top.
Well, yeah.
God loves the frosting. And, you know, I'd be honest, when I've made spice cake before, it's usually from a mix, but I have a feeling that this is one of those cakes that you've got probably everything in your fridge and your pantry, and, you know, it's pretty simple.
Yeah, cakes are really not that hard. They just take a little bit more time to do, but the actual steps are not that hard to actually complete. And most of the time, you have all these things in your house, so you shouldn't go out and spend more money on something else. You should use what's in your house.
Absolutely. Good advice. All right, so let's get to it.
Get
putting to work.
So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cream up some butter and some sugar.
Okay.
So we're going to definitely put it in your stand mixer, or you could do it with your handheld mixer if that's what you have.
Okay, so we've got some softened butter.
Yep, room temperature.
Lindsay likes to pull it out the night before.
Yes, you remember.
Yes,
That's one of the key things to making a good cake or a good cookie. And then a couple cups of granulated sugar is going to go straight in here.
Okay, we'll get that going.
All right.
Kind of cream that together.
And then in this bowl over here, what you can do is take the dry ingredients. So we've got 3 cups of flour, just regular all-purpose flour. It doesn't have to be cake flour.
Okay. Could you use cake flour? Or?
You could. It just makes it a softer, more delicate cake. But the shelf life on cake flour is only maybe about 6 months, maybe 8 months at most.
Really?
So
I didn't know that.
If you're going to stock your house with something and someone that doesn't bake a whole lot of cakes from scratch, maybe isn't the best flour to have on hand. So AP flour.
Okay.
A little bit of baking powder.
Okay.
Baking soda and salt.
Okay.
And then this is where you start to get into the spices.
Yeah, what kind of spices go into a spice cake? Because I wasn't sure.
Sure, all the ones that you would definitely want to have in here. And that's going to be ginger.
Okay.
Cinnamon. Cloves, but take it easy on the cloves. You're going to reduce that by about a half teaspoon or so.
They could be overpowering, yeah.
Yep.
So.
Definitely one of those hidden spices you want to have in there, but can be really strong.
Got it.
And then I use fresh nutmeg, and you can use just dried nutmeg, or I've got a little grater. I don't know if you're familiar with them, Amy, or not.
No, so tell me about, you can just buy the whole nutmegs in the grocery store?
Yeah, it's actually just a nut.
Okay.
And then you can have a microplaner, or they actually make little graters for it.
Okay.
And you're just going to just do it right over the bowl.
And I've heard it's kind of one of those things that once you start using that, you'll never go back to the...
Can you smell it? I'm sure you can smell it already.
I can, and, you know, once the just spices sit in those containers for a long time, and they, you know, if you can, the fresher the better.
Yes, yes. There's a totally different smell and fragrance with fresh nutmeg.
Yes.
And it will stay a lot fresher for you a lot longer, too.
Oh.
So you're definitely going to just whisk together your dry ingredients.
Okay.
I don't really sift my ingredients. I just take a whisk to them and mix them up that way.
You're my kind of gal. I don't think I own a sift at home. I really don't.
You know what? When you're making your own cakes, you want to do it right, but you can always take a couple shortcuts.
All right, good. Good to know. I'm all about shortcuts.
All right. So once you start creaming together your butter and your sugar, it should get really light and fluffy.
Okay.
And then we will have some eggs to add to it as well.
Want me to start cracking those? Do you trust me?
Yep, just one at a time.
One at a time.
Yep.
Okay, I can handle that. One.
All right.
Now, why do you do one at a time? What's the deal with that?
You know what? Eggs are a little bit cooler, so they'll cool down your butter. So if you add all the eggs at one time, you may have a cold slop of your butter. So it's not going to mix together and be very smooth and creamy.
Okay. That's why they do that in those recipes. You know, a lot of these old recipes that we grew up with are really making a comeback with a new twist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With a little bit more special stuff.
We actually just catered a dinner party a couple weeks ago, and the lady requested that we do a spice cake for her dinner party. And I said, okay, I can do that, but let me roast a plum. So I did a port roasted plum over the top of it, and it came down through the cream cheese icing that we're going to do here in a little bit, too.
Oh, so just taking things, those great old-fashioned recipes, kind of taking them to the next level. Yeah. So at this point, are we done with the stand mixer?
We are. Okay. Now we just need to mix all the 3 ingredients together that I have here. So that starts out by having your eggs and the sugar and then the butter in here.
Okay.
And then we'll add some of the flour. And do you want to mix it, Amy?
Sure.
So add about a third of your flour dry ingredients. And then we have buttermilk here.
Okay, I'm a big fan of, I'm falling in love with buttermilk. You know, I use it a lot in salad dressings and to make chicken. It keeps it moist, and it's not bad for you, you know?
No, not at all.
Keeps cakes moist. Okay.
And add about a third or so of your buttermilk.
Okay.
And we'll go back to the flour and add about a third of that flour mixture. And you definitely want to do this by hand. I know I've been on here before that I really like to work with all my doughs by hand. You get better control over it. You can make sure that you're getting all the sides and the corners and the bottoms. Rather with just that stand mixer, you lose the bottom of that bowl a little bit.
Got it. Okay. More buttermilk.
More buttermilk. We'll toss the rest in there.
Now, I've gotten questions before, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, but what if you don't have buttermilk?
What I did, because I didn't have buttermilk this morning, is half and half and a couple tablespoons of fresh lemon juice.
Got it.
Let it sit for, maybe 10-15 minutes, and it'll thicken up for you, and it'll actually sour the milk.
Good tip. Or vinegar, I've heard, too. Vinegar and... All right. Last bit of flour goes in there. I'm excited about the frosting because I'm all about a good cream cheese frosting.
So then we'll take the pan, and the recipe that's going to be online for you, and it says on the recipe an 8-inch pan.
Okay.
I always like to do mine a little bit smaller, a little bit more fitting, so we've got 2 6-inch pans.
And that way we'll get a little bit, lots of layers.
Yep, a little bit higher on your height.
But 2 8-inch rounds work. Could you also do this in like a 9x13?
And that'll be the same equivalent for a 9x13.
Okay.
So, and pan spray it really well. I like to use parchment paper as well. It's kind of that safety net so that it doesn't stick.
Sure.
And you can go ahead and fill them. They bake in the oven at 350 degrees, and they'll take somewhere around about 30 minutes or so, depending on the size pan that you have.
It's a real dense cake, and I can already tell.
Yep, and you can definitely test this one by the toothpick test. So make sure you just give it a toothpick. Let them cool for about 10 minutes, and then you can pop them out of the pans.
All right, I'll let you go ahead and get to the frosting because we're running out of time here.
All right, so these are the ones that are already out of the oven.
They're beautiful.
And for the frosting, you're going to take your food processor. It's a great way to get a really nice creamy icing. Cream cheese.
I've never done that. I've always used a mixer. That's a great tip.
Because you always, and then the bottom of the mixer, you end up missing a little bit.
Sure.
So cream cheese and a little bit of unsalted butter, which are both at room temperature.
Okay. Get those going first.
Yep. And then I like to add maple syrup.
Oh, that's fun. To sweeten it up a little bit?
Yeah. It's a little different flavor to it.
It'll go great with that spice cake. Just a little dab will do you. A tablespoon or 2?
Tablespoons. And then just a couple tablespoons of powdered sugar, so you can turn it off, Amy.
You bet.
Dump in 2 cups of powdered sugar. Give it a good toss. Scrape the sides maybe once. And when it comes out, it'll be a super soft, creamy mixture that you can spread over the cake.
I have to tell you, that's the easiest way to make a cream cheese frosting. I'm never going to do it the other way. Usually it's cream cheese all over the, and powdered sugar all over the kitchen.
Yeah, absolutely. And this way, if your cream cheese is a little bit cold, this machine will break it up real fast for you.
What a great idea. I love my food processor, and that's the one tool I really like, and I use it at home a lot.
I'm going to get you into a stand mixer pretty soon, too.
Not quite ready for one of those. I'm not ready to give up my hand mixer. I love that. So this is a nice, real easy to spread.
Right. I'm going to scrape the sides, but you can see that it's already in the
perfect
perfect
love that. Let me get you a plate, and we'll start putting this beautiful cake together.
And that's just it. Cake baking doesn't need to be hard. Making fresh icing will make a huge difference in your end result.
So we'll get this cake frosted and beautiful, and here's what it turns out when it's all done. Got some cinnamon sticks on top and a little bit of sprinkle of cinnamon and lots of layers. The recipe's on our website. We'll be right back. Yum.